want to say hello to all of our viewers. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us. It is a particularly beautiful day, so if you've not had a chance to get outside, after 30 minutes listening to all the important insights that Karin is going to share, I highly encourage you to go and get some fresh air. My name is Kelly O'Brien, and I lead both the Alliance for Regional Development and the Chicago Central Area Committee. Funny enough, I took the lead of both organizations at the same time that our speaker today took the lead of the organization that we're going to be talking about today, the partnership. If you're not familiar with CCAC and the Alliance is a neutral platform that focuses on the Milwaukee, Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana corridor. It was established in 2012 following the publication by the world's leading think tank on economic development, the OECD. The Chicago Central Area Committee is a 64-year-old civic group, and we just launched a new website. So if you have an opportunity, please visit ccac.org and look at all the exciting work that is underway with that organization. And always contact me if you have any questions. So it is really a distinct pleasure and honor to be able to introduce our speaker, Karin Norington-Reaves. Well, I think hopefully our teams are working in the background to kind of figure out why Karin is logged in now 3 times. And so we'll get that worked out as I share with you Karin's, really stellar background. She has been involved for over 25 years in education, law, advocacy, community, and workforce development. As I mentioned, in 2012, Karin became the founding CEO of the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. And that was really huge news when it was announced, and it has turned out to be, such a successful story and really a best practice that's recognized nationally. If you're not familiar with the Chicago Cook Partnership, it was the merger and restructuring of 3 diverse workforce systems into what is now the most extensive workforce system managed by a nonprofit administrative agency. And although on the website, Karin has that she's raised over 50 million in diverse funds, I think it's actually now over 100 million, and we're going to be talking about that today. So we have a lot of great questions that I'm sure you have. So I'm going to encourage the audience to please use the Q&A button. If you use the Q&A button, I will do my best to relay your questions to Karin. So without further ado, let me start by saying, Karin, how are you and how are your family? How have you all survived the last 6 months of COVID? Oh, can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Oh, hi, Kelly. It's good to see you. I'm very happy to be on and joining you. How have we survived? I think that this time really calls for all of us to just be relying on our strength and our faith and our resilience. And so, believe me, it has been not without its challenges. The thing that before I launch into the litany of things that I, can complain about, the thing that I try and remember most is that we have not been stricken with this disease. I have a job. I'm able to work remotely, unlike so many of the people that we as an organization serve. And, we are still in relatively good health. And so I can't complain. I can't complain. I've had 7 family members stricken with COVID all across the country, 2 of whom were hospitalized, 1 on a ventilator, and everybody has survived and everyone is doing well. And so, there's a lot to complain about, but there's even more to be grateful for. So we've adjusted by making schedules and buying desks and building out new space in the basement so that we've got dedicated workspace so that we're not all working in our bedrooms.
I
Yeah.
understand. Well, I'm very happy to hear that your family members are all on the other side of it. And I will say in the last 48 hours, I've learned of 5 people in my network that have tested positive for COVID.
Yeah.
So it's still a very active virus, and I really encourage everybody to take every precaution. So I believe that you would like to start with some slides, and then we can, because I know there's a lot of questions that I have, and I'm sure the audience does too. So maybe we can start with the slides and then jump right into some of the information that I know is at the top of people's minds.
Yes. So if you give me just one moment, I am going to pull those up and get us started. So
And while you do that, I did see in the chat a question about whether or not these webinars are recorded. They are, and they can be found on both the CCAC website as well as on YouTube. And it would be a great privilege if you do watch the video, or you encourage others to watch the video. Please like them, and that really helps with our social media. So yes, these are recorded, and we'll be happy to share the links following today's conversation.
okay. Thank you, Kelly. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. So, so just to give you a little bit of background, you talked a bit about this, but most folks don't know what the public workforce system is, right? And so we talk a lot lately, given the pandemic, we talk a lot about the public health system. And so the public workforce system is its complement, its sister, if you will. We focus on workforce development. We manage federally provided dollars from the United States Department of Labor. And here in Chicago, we have a unique system. So no matter where you go, everybody talks about how different they are. We really are very different in the way that we manage things for Chicago and Cook County. We are an umbrella organization at the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. We are also a 501c3. We oversee a network of more than 50 delegate agencies. We have 10 American Job Centers, which are high volume standalone locations that see a large number of people, but also they house a number of federally mandated partners so that we're able to provide integrated services. We also have 9 satellite centers and 4 sector-driven centers that are focused on high growth, high demand industries within Chicago and Cook County. So our sector centers include one focused on information technology, healthcare, transportation, distribution, and logistics, and one in hospitality and retail. And combined, we have more than 72 locations where individuals in the city and the county can receive workforce development services. Typically, we see about 140,000 people a year, and to date, we've worked with more than 2,000 employers. We have about 1,000 employers in our roster right now. The local workforce development system here is comprised of those components that I just mentioned. So our American Job Centers, our delegate agencies are divided amongst those focusing on adults and dislocated workers, and then those focusing on youth as well. And then our sector centers I mentioned, as well as career pathway training programs that are cohort-based models that allow us to train people in smaller groups, but to provide for hands-on experiential learning. We have a number of initiatives that we do outside of the federal Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funding. We also manage quite a bit of philanthropic dollars, and through those dollars, we're able to create demand-driven initiatives. So as you all are likely aware, we are the recent awardees of the two-year $56 million contact tracing grant with the city of Chicago. And so through that, we will be creating an earn and learn program and creating more than 600 job opportunities for people throughout the city of Chicago to focus on providing the contact tracing work, as well as standing up a resource coordination hub to help stem the transmission of COVID-19. Opportunity Works is a youth program that we do that's focused on career exploration. Chicago Codes is focused on creating diverse talent pipeline in the information technology field. And then we also have a construction portfolio that is also focused on skilled trades, diversity hiring within skilled trades. We have recently launched a workforce development portal for youth and young adults that we're very, very excited about. This will also provide some work-based learning opportunities as well as virtual job shadowing. And then we partner with some of our other sister agencies on the ground here. So with the Chicago Housing Authority, we work with respect to employment services for CHA residents and voucher holders. We actually have a program for them with respect to digital literacy training as well as career coaching. And then with AARP Foundation, we do an initiative for folks over 50 who are returning to the labor force. We have a number of initiatives that are pending right now. One that we've recently launched is our Reentry Council. And so we're about to kick off a pilot program that is allowing us to actually reform how people returning from prison come back and reintegrate into Chicago communities. And that is going to focus on some pre-release career development and assessing so that when they come out, they're in a better position to reintegrate and also decrease the rate of recidivism. And then we're doing some other highly specialized initiatives. One in response to the opioid crisis, helping to train substance abuse counselors. And then we're opening a new state-of-the-art workforce center as well. One of the things that I like to help people understand about our work is that we serve two populations, both job seekers and employers. So with respect to meeting employer need, we promote and advise the use of various state and local tax incentives. We also work on layoff aversion. So in addition to being responsive to the market when individuals lose their jobs, we also work with employers around how to train incumbent workers, how to skill them up, how to onboard folks through on-the-job training, and also how to provide customized training. And then we serve sort of an HR function as well, a consultative function as well. In the space that we're in now with respect to COVID-19, we're also deeply involved in helping to rebuild the local economy. So we've provided assistance to businesses where we're applying for grants to help support them. We're providing community assistance in the form of grants that will allow organizations that had actually been employing a fleet, if you will, of volunteers. We've actually been able to take those volunteer positions and convert them into paid wages, paid opportunities to really serve and give back to the community, whether it be through food pantries or sanitation work, but efforts that help to stem the transmission of COVID-19. And then we've virtualized all of our services as well in this economy. So finally, there's the contact tracing work that, as I mentioned, has two components. One is the contact tracing core, and the other is the actual resource hub. And we've got a number of project partners there that I'd be remiss to not lift up in this case. So UIC, Malcolm X, Sinai Urban Health Institute, and NORC are also our partners with respect to the contact tracing core work. So with that, that's a pretty quick and dirty overview of who we are and what we do. So I'm happy to field more questions from you or questions from your audience.
Excellent. And again, I will ask the audience to please use the Q&A button in order for me to relay your questions to our speaker today. So Karin, it looks like you obviously have a number of irons in the fire. Before we get to our audience questions, tell me a little bit about what you were working on in January, February versus, kind of what you're working on today. And really, I know that obviously the contact tracing is something no one would have dreamt about in January, but what are you seeing in terms of people that are contacting the partnership because they lost their job, and how many employers are contacting the partnership saying we're looking for workers?
Sure. So I heard a couple of different pieces to that question there, Kelly. So you kind of answered the first part yourself, right? So like, what was January and February like versus now? Well, versus now, we are knee deep in contact tracing. Certainly I was familiar with the concept of contact tracing just from the HIV/AIDS era. and because I have a background in health law. But wow, who knew that we would be so steeped in it now? It takes up a significant amount of my time. It is actually it's a little bit more than 50% of our portfolio, just from a financial perspective. So it is a sharp contrast to where we were in January and February, which was dealing with, the variety of initiatives that we have, and really making sure that those were all firing on all cylinders, and that we're, recruiting and retaining people. And then in terms of the second part of your question around, what are people contacting us for, and employer engagement. The employer engagement has been interesting, because you would think that given the volume of unemployment claims, that that a lot of our work would have dried up, and that just hasn't been the case. So where we've had, a number, obviously unprecedented unemployment, we have also had opportunity that has been created in the midst of this pandemic. And so we are getting contact from manufacturers, from companies within transportation, distribution, and logistics, healthcare sector. So there's a lot of demand in those particular sectors, and we're beginning to see jobs come back online. Many jobs that many employers that had issued furlough notices are beginning to bring people back. And also, unfortunately, in some instances, some of those temporary furloughs have actually turned into permanent job loss. So we are also seeing a pivot where folks are taking their existing skills and trying to figure out where do they fit within the market, and same thing with employers. So the volume of hospitality workers who were laid off, and trying to repurpose their skills and repackage them within different industries.
Well, that's great that there's a place for people that need that assistance, to go. So we are receiving several questions. So I will start with, does CCWP review and use the ACS data, the BLS data, or both in its day-to-day work? We are working on developing metrics focused on the available market workforce.
Yeah, so we actually use that and more. So one is the community survey data, and the other is the Bureau of Labor Statistics data. We actually use both publicly available and privately available data. So the BLS data typically comes through the Department of Labor, and on a local level through the Illinois Department of Employment Security. So IDES is a mandated partner, federally mandated partner. So we do partner with them, and we do access BLS data, but we also use data from Burning Glass and from EMSI. So those are private subscription services. And we actually have on our staff, we have 6 staff who are trained in data analytics, and do our labor market analysis, and provide ongoing responses to data requests that we get, as well as our regularly published Where Are the Jobs report, which analyzes the local labor market.
Great, thank you. And thank you for those that may not know what those acronyms meant, that you were able to also keep that into your answer.
Yeah.
The next question, can you speak more to contact tracing, how CBOs were considered for funding, the work the CBOs will be undertaking, timeline, etc.? Thank you.
Sure. So how the CBOs were considered, we issued 2 RFPs. We had 2 separate rounds of RFPs. The first round, just because of the time to market that CDPH wanted us to, Chicago Department of Public Health wanted us to the time frame they wanted us to move along with, we wound up doing 1 closed RFP just to our existing network of agencies. And so from there, we selected 10 organizations. And then we did a second round RFP, which was open citywide to CBOs everywhere of all stripes. And we had more than 70 applicants for that second round. We really chose agencies based on a number of different factors, which were articulated in the RFP. We looked at their capacity to provide the services, their ability, their demonstrated ability to provide program services. They had to provide executive summaries. They had to, they were able to pick from a number of different examples of the type of work that they had provided, the different challenges that they've overcome with their work. We looked at their fiscal capacity. We also looked at their programmatic capacity. We looked at the communities that they were serving, because the mandate from CDPH was that we focus on 28 communities that represented the highest, the hardest hit economically and also through the pandemic, those areas within the city. And then there were 2 additional community areas that were added, Auburn Gresham, as well as South Shore, because they were included in the Invest Southwest initiative. So our process is a very detailed and thorough and searching process. We look at a bunch of different data points in order to determine the CBOs that will come on board. So these CBOs, community-based organizations, will hire roughly 15 to 20 contact tracers and contact tracing supervisors at each of their locations. And all of those contact tracers will be trained in a common curriculum using a credentialing program from Malcolm X College. Will also be supported by Sinai Urban Health Institute and UIC's School of Public Health, and will also be providing ongoing professional development every 6 weeks throughout their tenure in the Corps.
Excellent. Well, and that lends itself to our next question, which is, are the contact tracing training and job opportunities background friendly for job seekers with criminal backgrounds?
Absolutely. So we wanted to make sure that, that these jobs were open to everyone, and particularly people with barriers to employment, particularly given the landscape right now and the number of people who are unemployed. So they will be background friendly. It'll be on a case-by-case basis. The only types of crimes that are excluded would be, identity theft and fraud, just because they're going to be having contact with a lot of deeply personal information. But other than that, it would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, but we absolutely are background friendly.
Excellent. And building on that, there's a question, and you touched on this in your slides, so maybe you can just expand a little bit. Wondering if your re-entry work includes ways to encourage second chance hiring among employers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we actually have had a re-entry council that was launched in January. So you're asking me what we were doing in January and February. In January, we kicked off our re-entry council. And honestly, we invited about 20 different, we expected about 20 people to show up. We invited, a number of organizations ranging from folks within the Illinois Department of Corrections, all the way down to social service organizations and faith-based organizations. And we had 60 people show up for our reentry council meeting. And they continue to show up month after month after month. And so we did 8 months of planning. And our objective is we had to identify at least 3 areas to bring about systemic change throughout the state around reentry. And so we're focused not only on that pre-released work, but we're also focused on bringing in the employers. So at our foundation, at our core, the partnership has 2 clients that we serve: job seekers and employers. So we'd be remiss if we didn't add that into every single aspect of every program that we do. So with respect to the Reentry Council, absolutely the answer is yes, we are working with employers as well. And we actually had employers participating throughout the Reentry Council. So you can expect to hear more great things as that initiative unfolds. Our next step is the pilot project with 150 returning citizens. And we have actually just extended hire offers to 2 ex-offenders who will serve as reentry navigators and peer mentors in this program.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is Racial Equity Week in Cook County and Workforce Development Professional Month. How does your personal commitment to racial equity inform your work in workforce development?
It informs my work just from my own day-to-day experiences and just paying attention to what's happening in this country and looking at labor market data, recognizing that when we look at the spread of the pandemic, when we look at who is disproportionately impacted by it, who's getting it, and who's dying from it, it is disproportionately Black and brown people. Well, those folks are also overrepresented in essential workers category. We're also overrepresented in retail. We're also overrepresented in all the frontline public-facing jobs, and so we are more apt to catch the disease, more apt to be in these lower wage jobs that then don't provide insurance, and then you wind up staying at home suffering in silence, and then you wind up dying from this disease. And so, for me, racial equity is a workforce development matter. When we look at the overrepresentation in underpaid jobs and the underrepresentation in higher wage earning jobs, there is an imbalance there. And so I simply wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't focus on that thread of racial equity throughout everything that we do. We see it even when we just look at the folks within our service population. When we look at the wages year after year after year, we always see that Black and brown folks are earning less, and there's a reason for that, and it could be people who are highly credentialed and highly qualified will still wind up being paid less. So for us, racial equity is absolutely a workforce development matter. So I have to pay attention to it, even if it didn't just deeply personally affect me.
Mm-hmm. Right, thank you. We're getting a number of questions that are asking about how do people apply to become COVID tracers,
Mm-hmm.
as well as just apply not only for COVID tracers, but in jobs in general. So if they were in one sector and downsized, how does somebody go about figuring out how those skills could transfer to another sector and actually get a job?
So I am putting in the chat our sites. So shytracing.com is the website that we set up to identify folks interested in being not only contact tracers, but also resource coordinators, because we will be helping to support the resource coordination hub. In addition to that, I've put my our website, shycookworks.org, shycookworks.org. And so those are two sites that folks can go to in order to learn more about the initiative and how to register interest. I will say that yesterday alone, we had nearly 10,000 people register interest in this initiative just after our press conference. So we are meeting later on this afternoon with CDPH to talk about what are other programs, initiatives, employment opportunities that we can refer people to, because there's a hunger and a thirst for opportunities to work. And so we want to leverage all of the ones that we have access to, as well as others that are outside of our control, because the interest is huge. The demand is definitely exceeding the supply in terms of the jobs.
If a stakeholder applied for a COVID tracing job and maybe they got a letter that they weren't accepted, would you encourage that they continue applying, or what would you suggest their next step be?
Yeah, that's part of what we're going to be talking about this afternoon. I think we're going to have some wait lists, because there's going to be turnover, and so I think we need to be able to build up some bench strength and be able to go to the bench when a position opens up. The other thing is I want them to check out shycookworks.org because we have a number of other initiatives, and so it could be, a lot of people are thinking about contact tracing just because it's an option that's being presented now, and maybe there are plenty of other initiatives and programs that we have that they would also be well suited for, and that would create long-term permanent employment.
And you mentioned that there was a press conference yesterday, but many people that are watching may not know what you're talking about. You were with the mayor yesterday, right?
I was with the mayor yesterday. we were announcing the 31 community-based organizations who will be funded to hire the contact tracers. So that, it always helps to have the mayor at a press conference. That's probably why we got 10,000 people interested in the initiative.
Sure, sure. Well, and I see that it's already 2 o'clock. The 30 minutes always goes by so quickly. So I want to thank you for being with us today. If there were any questions that we did not get to, please email me and I will forward them on to Karin and her team to get responses. So I guess in closing, Karin, do you see the opportunity for reshoring, with opportunities for jobs, making the PPE or making the chemicals for our medications, really, limiting the dependency on foreign countries and making, kind of made in USA?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. We are doing a lot of work in the manufacturing field. And certainly what this pandemic has shown us is that we can't rely on anyone but ourselves to really get through this. And so we definitely saw that. We saw lots of examples of manufacturing firms retrofitting and making that pivot, as I mentioned earlier, changing their operations so that they could produce hand sanitizer. I'm sure you all saw the alcohol distillery that changed into creating hand sanitizer. We also saw lots of factories turning into PPE production sites. And so I think we will continue to see more of that. We are actually working on the creation of a maker lab now, and they want to bring in equipment in order to make PPE. And so I do think that we're going to continue to see this effort to make products and goods here so that we decrease the time to receive different products and make sure that we're able to sustain ourselves, because another wave is certainly around the corner. We want to make sure that we're able to take care of people right here in our own country.
Oh, well, Karin, thank you for all that you do. I mean, without your leadership, there would be no way that the partnership would probably happen, and certainly not be as vibrant and such a resource and an important resource. So thank you for the important work that you do. You have a great team. So I want to give a shout out to the members on your staff that I've worked with to get us to this webinar today. So big thank you to everyone for joining us. As you know, we have our webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30. On Thursday, we're going to be talking to the Northwest Indiana Small Business Development Center and a company called the Regional Development Company, both focused on providing resources and money to small businesses. Whether you're an entrepreneur wanting to start a business or you already have a business, you're not going to want to miss this conversation. So thank you for tuning in. Stay well, stay strong, and I look forward to seeing you on our next program. And Karin, I'll be in touch, so take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too.
Have a great
Bye-bye,
day.
everyone.